so far.
Okay.
Hi.
As soon as we find a good spot, we can get things set up and ready to go.
And then we can get started.
This is gonna be great!
What is your favorite weapon in Wild so far? And do you usually capture or slay monsters more often?
I use the lance, and I've always used it since the beginning of the series. So it's really fun in Wilds as well, and I'm not changing from my main weapon. Actually, the director, Tokuda-san, is always asking me, hey, you need to use a bit more of a wider variety of weapons here, but I'm sticking to my lance. As the director, I, of course, play through all the weapons to test them out. I've been getting quite into hunting horn in Monster Hunter Wilds. It's really fun in this game. But more recently, I've actually been using the Charge Blade. It's really fun and satisfying to use its focus attack move that lets you destroy the wounds. As for capture or slay, in the earlier stages, I think I like to use capture as a way to end the hunt sooner whenever my gear isn't maybe quite up to the level if I'm fighting against a very strong monster. But once I get stronger and stronger in the later stages of the game, I go slay happy. As you all probably know, I'm famously a hammer main, and I always have been. Again, Tokuda-san tends to ask me to maybe explore other options and deepen my knowledge of the other weapons, but I don't see the need to do that. Yeah, I'm definitely slay over capture, you know. I think you need to...
Monster Hunter traditionally strikes a balance between action combat and hunting simulation. Things like eating food, sharpening your weapon, hot and cold drinks. How are you balancing these two aspects in Monster Hunter Wilds?
I think it's important to have realistic and immersive hunter simulation aspects of the game, like the ones you mentioned, like eating food, sharpening your weapon, dealing with temperature changes in the environment. And you know, these are all included in one way or another in Monster Hunter Wilds. But I think our approach since Monster Hunter World has been, don't let those kind of get in the way of the main hunting action by becoming too much of a kind of admin task you have to manage at all times, especially with things like reducing the amount of items you need to stock up on and have on you at all times. They're a sort of a finite resource you have to either be purchasing or crafting, because it just becomes inventory management at that point. So as with some aspects in Monster Hunter World, where we changed it from an item to another sort of mechanic that you would use to deal with things, aspects like temperature and hot and cold and that kind of thing, we've got, you know, maybe a different approach this time around that will hopefully reduce that overhead of admin and let you just focus on the hunting action itself a little bit more.
Once you've dealt enough damage to it.
The hunting simulation thing, though, is not so much that as depicting the humans as part of the ecosystem the monsters live in. The monster's behavior is designed to be plausible in terms of being a living creature and not just a video game boss. So if they're moving around a lot, they're going to get hungry and they might go and find prey. If they get exhausted, they want to go and sleep and recover. Like, these are realistic behaviors for an animal creature to have. So it wouldn't make sense if the hunter was just a superhuman who didn't have any of these needs, who, if you were moving around a lot, didn't get hungry and need to eat to bring their stamina back.
Players love getting rewards like weapon skins from event quests. But in Sunbreak, a lot of the more unique weapon skins were only available through paid DLC. What are your plans for Monster Hunter Wilds?
The basic layered armor system, so-called transmog, will be unlocked at a certain point as you progress through the game, and then once you unlock it, you'll freely be able to create any layered armor that you want. We do also have plans to make some extra special layered armor that will be made available as paid DLC.
Because of the current trends in Western games, players are afraid that one day Monster Hunter DLC might include monster materials or pay-to-win items. So far, Monster Hunter DLC has remained aesthetic only. Can you confirm that is still going to be the case moving forward?
Yeah, we're sticking with the same direction we've always had.
Is elemental damage going to play a more meaningful role in Monster Hunter Wilds?
Elemental damage tends to have different levels of importance depending on the game and how it fits into the overall game design and the combat design. I don't want it to become pointless, but at the same time I don't want it to become the main focus. It's the only thing you need to think about, and it's too powerful compared to other aspects of weapon design, so we're working on having it be part of a balanced gameplay system.
So you mentioned that there's going to be these temporary camps that can be placed in dangerous locations, which means they can be attacked by monsters. Can you elaborate on this mechanic?
There are areas where you can place a pop-up camp and it'll be essentially guaranteed safe because no monsters patrol there, nothing ever comes past. And then there's a sort of 3 levels where you've got like safe, up to completely dangerous, where it's very close to where dangerous monsters tend to roam, and there's a high chance that if the monster comes past your camp, it's going to just attack it and break it because it's very aggressive. At the same time, not all monsters react to camps in the same way. Some of them who are more of a threat will sort of see a pop-up camp in their territory as something they want to attack and break. Others might notice it, but maybe, not really pay attention to it too much. So there's different levels of consideration that you're going to have to give. How much do you want to have a high risk, high reward, convenient placement of the camp in an area where it may end up getting broken and disappearing? Or how much do you want to stay on the sidelines more and have further to travel, but have much less risk of it being destroyed?
I'm assuming there's going to be some materials required to craft the pop-up camps?
Not materials so much, but there are points you spend to create them.
So, with the introduction of the new system where we can switch between 2 weapons, there's now a fear that some players will just want to use the hunting horn to buff themselves and then swap into a different weapon. Is this something that you have considered?
Yeah, I'm aware it's a hot topic in the community. The system where you can choose any 2 weapons is important, and I don't want to limit people from choosing a hunting horn as a secondary if they want to do that. And I also want to make it so that the hunting horn buffs you apply will remain on you even if you change back to another weapon in your possession, because that's only fair and it makes sense. But the concern that it's some sort of balance breaker where people will just be permanently buffed is something I'm aware of, and we're working on making sure that it remains a balanced system so that hunting horn doesn't become the only viable secondary weapon.
Do you think that Ryozo will consider learning hunting horn so that his hammer will deal more damage?
No. Yeah, no, bonk is life.
It's typical for Monster Hunter to reveal a huge portion of the monster lineup ahead of the release of the game, leaving only a few surprises. But those surprises are very special for the players. Have you considered keeping more monsters secret? Like maybe not revealing as much of the monster roster?
I think our current style works for us. The monsters tie into the rest of the elements of the game so closely that it isn't just like revealing a character and that's it. The monsters we choose to show you in advance as each trailer comes along and we show you a new monster, maybe the environment it lives in, they really give people an idea of what to expect from the game. So not just the monster design, but I see that it lives in this area and that gives me a clue as to how the gameplay might feel. So we're pretty happy with our current approach. The main reason we don't show a monster in advance would be because it ties in with the storyline and the sort of final few maps you might discover and the way the story develops towards the ending of the game. And we don't want to ruin that for people right up front. So, of course, you always have to keep some things close to your chest so that people will still enjoy discovering what happens as the story progresses. I think with Monster Hunter World, we probably showed more monsters than usual because it was something of a reapproach of the series to the West. It was a reintroduction because a lot of new players were getting on board at that time who hadn't before, and we wanted to let you know this is what Monster Hunter is all about. this is the kind of lineup you can expect. So now that we're where we are with our global fan base, I think that we can afford to reveal enough monsters to make you interested and excited, but to keep plenty in our pockets so that you can discover it once the game comes out.
It just feels very nice to find a monster that we haven't really seen yet, or to just find something that wasn't really announced. In Iceborne, I didn't really know that the Guiding Lands existed, and so when I finished the story and then I went on to discover the Guiding Lands, it felt amazing because it was this whole new map that I didn't even know existed. Can we craft skill decorations in Monster Hunter Wilds?
That ties in with the end game contents a little bit, so I don't really want to get into it right now, but you know, stay excited.
Gunlance shelling level is usually a source of great frustration because a majority of the Gunlances never really hit max shelling level. Are there any plans to change this?
Yeah, I'm aware of the issue where fans felt that beyond a certain point, if the shelling level wasn't reaching what it needed to be, then the rest of the properties of the weapon kind of didn't really matter because that was such an important overriding factor. So we've actually changed the calculation this time for the overall power of each gun lance that you craft. So in addition to the shelling level and the attack type, there's a basic attack power stat that will scale up as you progress down the crafting tree. And the way they're calculated together is more balanced now so that it isn't overwhelmingly affected by just the shelling level. And you'll have much more viable gun lances later in the tree thanks to the higher attack power. So I'm sure the details will become clearer once we get closer to release and you're able to get your hands on it. But he actually checked into the details he could describe about that today because we spoke earlier after you and I spoke. He spoke with the dev team in Japan to check the details so that you'd be satisfied with the updated Gunlance system.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay, so this is this last question I told you about. So if you could please just translate. This is from my friend Gaijin Hunter. Nyanta no fukatsu tanomimasu. Did I say that right?
Yeah. We're not saying okay to your question. We're saying you pronounced it okay. You asked for the Prowler system to return. We understood your pronunciation, but that's it.